Okay, so for people who are joining this live stream, we are looking at features that are currently tagged as experimental in Wolfram Language, and we're discussing what it will take to make them not considered experimental. Okay, first up, file operations. What is wrong with FileConvert? Shadi.
Main thing we would like to change is to look at out-of-core conversions, for instance, for video out-of-core conversions, audio, and so forth.
Yeah.
Design-wise, I think this is solid and it's gonna work. There were some
let's talk about the out-of-core case. Yeah.
Well, even for video 12, there were cases like import is getting frame indices, range 1 through whatever is the number of frames in, and export used to rasterize those numbers and put them back into the new video files. Now, I don't think we have tested for all file conversions to see what is the behavior. So testing is one aspect, and then the out-of-core.
Okay, so what you're saying is, if there are particular elements of format 1 that we want to flow into format 2, in other words, you're saying this function is dealing with things like images where it's kind of obvious. If you're going from PNG to GIF, it's kind of obvious what you want to do.
Correct.
Right?
As soon as you want to specify elements and options, we don't have it yet in FileConvert.
Well, I understand. The question is whether it's design compatible with what we have here. So what you're saying is, I mean, in principle, you might want to run actual code there. I mean, at some level, it's like we'll just write the code and run it.
Exactly.
But what you're saying is, we might want to take certain format elements here. I mean, I guess we could perfectly well say format 1 and then various elements, arrow format 2 and then various elements, which is equivalent to export with those elements, import with those elements. Am I making sense?
You do.
That seems like a no-brainer.
I don't have a big objection for that. I'm happy to look at that and maybe add that support.
Seems straightforward. I mean, the question, I mean, I would say, right, in this case, I mean, this is what you'd have to do. You could also have that be an element specification there, right? Okay, let's talk out-of-core for a second. What will this look like in the out-of-core case?
Nothing different than what you have in FileConvert syntax. It's just going to recognize we're going from an MOV to OGG, and then call a backend that does that all out of core. And it may as well just work for video, but I don't know if you want to start developing a little framework that handles more things. And when I say it may just work as is out of the box for video, is because our video object is just out of core. So we're going to import as an out-of-core video, which is just the file name, and then export that file name, pass that to our backend, and export that. Nothing is coming into the core other than the file name.
Right. Okay. Well, so why are we keeping this experimental? It sounds like it's pretty solid to me.
Yeah, as I said, as far as testing, I don't feel comfortable. We haven't really done a whole lot of testing.
Okay, but experimentalization, the experimental stuff is mostly about, is the design solid? And I'm not hearing a lot of objections to the design here.
No, another thing that we have discussed design-wise is that we have import options that I think is for semantic import or somewhere else we use it. Do we want to have import options and export options as options to FileConvert? And if so, how far is that going to be from export of import anyways, if you're adding all of those hooks into FileConvert?
Yeah. Well, I don't think we should. I mean, I think we should just document the fact you can do, export of import.
Yeah.
I mean,
as a properties and relations, I think it is there already as well.
Well, but I mean, yeah, okay. I mean,
honestly, we haven't spent any time on that since 12. That's why I don't feel like it deserves being de-experimentalized. 12.1. But I agree that we have used it a little bit. It seems okay and solid. No big objections for moving it from experiment.
Well, okay, the options thing I'm not sure about, okay?
Okay.
So, because I can see, yeah, I mean, the main thing people are going to want it for is out-of-core stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, they are going to eventually want options.
I think so. And I'm sure you can imagine there are formats that have similar options for import and export, like image size or encodings and things like that. That's why we need to separate import options from export options.
Well, and the question is whether we syntactically have them packed in with the formats here, which is a little weird.
Even I just noticed that this function takes options and it has a third argument that looks like an option, which I find a bit confusing.
It's unfortunate, but I think that is one of the features of modern times.
Yeah, we're having more of these rule arguments.
Okay, Sandra on our live stream is asking about what would the syntax look like for converting a 60 frame per second video to a 30 frame per second video?
That's going to be a frame rate option for export. As we don't support it now, but export of import is going to support all of the options that is needed to do conversions of that sort.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird case because what we've got here is a convenience function. I mean, it's also the case that, okay, here's another point. Doing a directory would be interesting too.
Definitely.
Now, for example, we haven't documented here, file convert of a list of files or file convert of a directory.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan on our live stream is asking, is it parallelizable? And that's obviously relevant if we have directories.
Right. Sean, in the early designs, Sean really wanted to have this take a directory or a root and do the conversion for all. And I think we killed it and said with system file operators, system file map,
file system map.
Right. With those, we'll be able to do basically the same thing.
That's true.
Then we didn't overcomplicate the design of FileConvert.
Yeah, I mean, it might, as a courtesy, it might do that. I mean, it should probably do it for a list.
Yep.
Ali is asking whether there's any session coming up for red minus use. That is a good question. I mean, I was wondering that too. I don't know the answer. Maybe other people on this live stream can go find out the answer to that. I don't know.
I'll check with Arnold.
We were also going to have a another more general discussion about priorities. I don't know why that didn't get scheduled either. Okay. Weird. Not my issue. I'm merely I'm merely follow my calendar, he says. At least in a first approximation. Okay. Remote file.
Yes, I mean, our SSH functionality is not complete yet. main reason being that at the moment we don't have a developer that works on the SSH functions. And we had quite a bit of discussion of integrating these authentication options also into URL, so that because these obviously also might need authentication. And so at the moment it's not complete, so I would really like to keep it experimental, so we can, if we need, change some of the options and add more of these authentication options if we can.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I mean, where is the discussion about URL getting authentication options? I mean, I remember that was like a week or two ago we talked about that, but do you know where that's being handled?
Well, I wasn't aware that there was a renewed discussion of this.
Yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how does any of this stuff relate to, for example, things like the system credential stuff?
I mean, system credentialing, wherever we have authentication options, like here you see that SSH key password, which is something that people might want to store securely, because that's the bit you need to keep secure. And so anywhere where we specify something that should be kept secret, we should integrate it with system credential. And there was, of course, the main obstacle probably is that URL accepting options is probably not that easy to do, because URL is supposed to be a mere wrapper, and every piece of code that now has a rule for accepting URLs probably has a rule with only one argument. And so
well, I'm sure that can be looked at.
Yes.
Yeah, we should look at that. I mean, we should inventory how complicated that is. But I think,
well, there's also the issue of how does it typeset, right? URL is really a sort of a symbolic and typesetting marker.
No, it's mostly a marker for, is that a file or is it a URL thing? That's the way I see it being used. I mean, the typesetting is also quite nice, and being able to have, being able to, for example, have that link, be able to give it the authentication options, feed into that link would be wonderful. If the URL had symbolically specified authentication options, that they just get packaged correctly there would be really good.
I mean, this is probably not that easy, because I mean, some of these URL formats have internal authentication options, and sometimes we might want, if you have a URL download, then it could accept the internal authentication options, but it could also take them from the second argument, which, I mean, it's just like in your web browser. I mean, if your URL does not have the authentication options, then your browser will prompt. So I think these two cases are separate.
Okay, okay. Listen, the only way functions get to, we need a roadmap for what we're doing with this function. Okay, so what is the answer to that? We're basically, we need to look at, go ahead.
Well, basically, right, this was something that was put in to solve an immediate problem for the SSH link functionality. And I think we have, there hasn't really been any work about how it fits in.
All right, so we got to get a meeting about that and its relationship to URL and URL authentication and so on.
Okay.
Okay, various people on live stream still commenting on the file conversion business. Parallelization is relevant to single video files. For each frame each keyframe could be a separate thread. Yes, absolutely the case. Hopefully, but that hopefully will be handled in Shadi's other code.
Yep.
Need to have string pattern names for the rewrite rules for the first argument of FileConvert. Yes, I can imagine that. I mean, just as we are doing that, well, are we doing that for file system map? I think we are. Sandra is suggesting an amusing syntax in which there's format in goes to format out, and then there's a list of options in goes to a list of options out. Definitely amusing. definitely a new pattern. Kind of the double optioned thing is kind of a new and different pattern. Not convinced about that one.
Neither am I.
But we'll need
Would
something.
be hard to type, right? Well, we have, as I said, we have the symbol import options already in the system.
You know,
And I was
one of these
thinking-
days, I'm hoping that there'll be, at least I see one check mark here.
There's one there.
I do see one there. I don't know why all of these are, okay. So the annotation stuff, the calculus of annotations, I agree, is still somewhat fragile. Not fragile, but somewhat embryonic. I think boy. I mean, image identify, the design is okay.
Audio identify.
Audio identify, yes. The design is okay. It's just that the output is kind of cruddy.
Yep.
Fine. This probably needs to stay experimental because of cruddy output. I mean, the thing basically can never recognize, you know, it just any noise I make, it thinks is a human, you know, any noise like coughing, sneezing, you know, whatever, it just thinks it's, you know, speech.
Yeah, the thing is that the data is being collected for these trainings. We are data rich in image applications, much better than audio data. So I expect these to improve, but yeah, the current version is cruddy. And I think for that reason, let's keep it experimental.
Fair enough. I mean, okay. Okay. Okay, Ethan is pointing out the real-world test for remote file is handling files on remote boxes in EC2 through an SSH jump host. I've not ever heard of a jump host. I've used SSH to get to EC2, but okay. And this still doesn't work, apparently. I see. So in other words, having something running on your desktop system calling through to EC2. You know, literally just this weekend, because I was starting to run some remote jobs on AWS, actually, using the batch mechanism there. I mean, I was looking at what we have, and actually, well, Jesse was building some things that I don't know whether any of you guys have seen that yet. But that's more for run a job. That's for remote submit, not remote file. Can anybody comment on the failure to work through 2 levels of SSH on?
Yes, I mean the issue is the SSH proxy, so that apparently our version of SSH doesn't support, because I mean it cannot be configured. So that's another one of the shortcomings of our current SSH implementation. I mean, if you want to do that, then you would have to use the system SSH. But that's obviously something we should support in the future. So.
Well, what's involved in doing that? Is that a thing? Is that what is the issue? Is it a different SSH library, or what's the story?
No. I mean, it just needs different arguments. You need to tell SSH that it has to go through another host. So it first logs into that host, and then it issues another command to go one hop further. So that is a standard thing in OpenSSH. But all of these options, if we want to have them in the language, we need to distill out and provide arguments in remote run and remote and copy file. And this hasn't been done. The same story is with port forwarding, which our SSH doesn't support yet.
So we need to get that fixed. That sounds like
yes.
fairly
So
low-hanging fruit.
we need a developer, and I think Yeah,
Oh,
I
Shadi,
have an
how about,
idea. Yeah,
what's that?
I mean, Constantine probably could work on SSH.
Yes, he could. Why not?
So that would be a good, yes, would be good.
Okay, why don't we define this? Why don't you try and make? I was not
Yes.
aware of this issue. It sounds like fairly low-hanging fruit to me.
Yes, I mean, we should just provide all the useful features of SSH directly in the language.
I would think so. Ethan is making comments that I don't understand in detail. AWS Link only works for simple authentication. S3 works, but real-world companies use Bastion hosts to protect their VPNs. Yeah, so Ethan has a variety of comments here about connecting remote kernels through port forwarding.
Yes, I mean,
isn't possible yet.
Is the main missing feature.
What is this Bastion hosts thing? What does that mean? Do you
Well,
know?
that's like the jump host before. So there's like a proxy you have to go through.
I see.
Now, of course, the
Okay.
alternative is always to use VPN, and the VPN then goes through this Bastion host. And so that's what we use internally, right? I mean, if you have VPN, then you can directly reach everything inside the VPN. And you can also set up VPN inside Amazon EC2 virtual clusters.
Okay. Okay, so look, it sounds like there is a little bit of extra sophistication needed. Konstantin sounds like a very good person to do that. Why don't you initiate that?
Yes, very good.
Okay. Back to audio. Okay, pitch rec.
Are we done with SSH? Because
I believe we're done with your
excuse
stuff.
myself. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Roman. Bye. There. Okay, pitch recognize.
As the note says, it currently only works with monophonic signals.
And what do you anticipate would be the output for a polyphonic signal?
Simply a multi-valued time series, but even that wouldn't be a very uniform one. At different times, you may.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is it's two notes. You know, imagine you have a chord, and you know, I mean, if you think about what's easy to represent in music notation, that's a reasonable thing for this to be returning. And in music notation, the concept that you have a chord where you put your, in fact, I don't even know how you write this now that I think about it. You play the chord initially, and then you take one of your fingers off that chord partway through. I don't think that's a commonly, well, maybe, I don't know. I only know about piano, I guess, even approximately. Does anybody know, is that a thing for which there is a common notation? Well, anyway, but absent that, a time series of multiple values is going to work just fine. Right? That's the only case where you'd find it awkward is if you had something which was a note, it's played for 2 seconds, but there's another note that starts being played 1 second into that note. Right? That would be hard to represent with a multi-valued time series. But the other case where it's just like standard music notation type thing seems like it should be easy to represent with, where it's just like, well, this chord got played at this time, as opposed to just this note is being played at this time. Now,
but I mean, again, something we haven't put any development time or any thought into it. I'm happy to prioritize this 12.2 and really give it a thought and some.
Well, I think the thing we have to do first, honestly, that this is going to be most interesting in the case
if we
where
have music stuff.
Yeah, we need the music framework.
Yes. Okay.
All right, we can leave this experimental. Speech recognize.
Punctuations need to come.
How are we doing on that? I don't think the recognition quality is poor compared to other recognition systems. I think it's quite decent. I mean, other ones have a bunch of UX wrappers around them that we don't have because of the use case that we have.
Right.
Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. So what is the story with punctuation?
Again, sorry to say we haven't done anything. We've been derailed to so many other projects. Video have been has taken
Yeah,
our
well,
attention.
I don't think
from
that's
our
necessarily wrong prioritization, because I think we don't, for speech recognize this, and I'm surprised we don't see the new speech interpreter here. Where is the new?
I haven't done knitting yet.
Okay, fine. Okay, but in any case, to me, the killer use cases of speech recognize have not arrived yet. They may arrive to a larger extent when we start doing things with videos and audio. I mean, like, for example, okay, so I have a use case for the video stuff, as we probably know, like these live streams and their archives, right? I would like to get from the video, I would like to get something which can summarize each of these, right? And one thing we haven't done is, there's no good reason we haven't run speech recognize on every one of these live streams and just got this big bag of speech which could be used for searches. And I'd like to know how it does on that. I mean, we just haven't done it because it's all kind of a pain, because there's video files somewhere and we don't know how to slice off the audio, and we don't, or do we know how to slice off the audio?
12.1 knows. Yeah.
What's that?
12.1 can access audio part of a video file only.
Great. So, okay, so what does that look like? What does the code look like for that? So let's imagine, I don't even know what these things are stored in, but let's imagine it's MP4. I don't think
We
it is.
can. I'm trying to think. I haven't done it yet, but the plan is to have audio of a video is going to be the audio representation of that video file, and whatever you could have done with any audio objects in the system, now you can do with that audio.
Wonderful. That's great. That sounds really good. I think I'm thinking video of audio makes one of those. What's that?
Don't try it now. I'll test it and make sure it works. But
okay, but so then the one-liner is speech recognize audio of the random file that is this thing. Okay, and so I'd like to try that. I mean, and clearly as we get diarization and things like that, it'll get better. But even just getting the bucket of words seems like it would be potentially useful, because it will allow us, I mean, for example, let's get the bucket of words and make a word cloud for each video.
Yep.
And that would be interesting to see. I mean, it may be that there's mostly stop words and mostly who knows what. Mostly, things like the phrase.
But word cloud takes care of that. You can delete the stop words.
I know that. Yeah. I'm just making fun of myself and saying, I'm trying to think of repeated phrases that, do you get what I mean? Or does that make sense? No, that's the one. Does that make sense? Right. We'll have sense as a big word. Okay, but anyway, we should try this. And I mean, right now we believe speech recognize runs in roughly real time, as in, okay, we should really try it, see how it does. And for summarizing these videos, we also want to get, screenshots. And I don't know, do we believe that, again, I'm going down a rabbit hole of something different, but do we believe, is the keyframing mechanism, is there a mechanism whereby sort of interesting moments in the video, let's say it's a 1-hour video, where we can get the 5 interesting moments from the video? Is there a technology for that?
We looked into keyframes. Keyframes have a tag in them. So yes, with the new function video frames, you suggest that we will be able to say, get me all the keyframes. How those keyframes are tagged as keyframes, I believe, is up to whoever has created the video file.
Okay, but my question, and this is probably a machine learning story, is can we get something which will find us the interesting moments, right, in a 1-hour video? I have certainly, I mean, I guess I've seen, I have no idea whether they're always done by hand. But that seems like a reasonable thing to ask the machine learning team.
I'll talk to the machine learning team. I think without machine learning as well, we should be able to find scene changes and interesting, or combine things like what objects do you see, what do you track when new things show up in video. Things like that doesn't necessarily require machine learning, but they can get expensive. It all depends on how much time you're willing to spend.
I understand. Let's assume we're willing to spend a reasonable amount of time to help people find things in videos.
Summarize. Sure.
Right. Actually, Sanders suggests the amusing idea that word cloud of audio could just work. Why not?
Sure.
There. I mean, actually, an interesting question is whether word cloud of an image could just work using text recognize.
It's just one call away from its word cloud of text recognize of
I
image.
agree.
I'm not sold on these combinations being built in.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Especially when there end up being options and things.
Yes.
Ethan is pointing out there are existing neural nets that do video saliency and action recognition. Video of, and he's suggesting a video contents thing.
Right.
Yeah, Brian is suggesting interesting moments to correlate the text in a video to what actually shows up in the description of a new function in help. That is a good future thing to be able to do. All right, let's look at inverse spectrogram. This is a cool function. And I guess, by the way, why does that say list? I thought that the iconized form of a list was brace ... brace. Am I wrong? Did something break there?
That probably means it's an old iconized that wasn't reevaluated.
I see.
Because when we redid the formatting for version 12, there were some tweaks. So it still evaluates correctly, but the display isn't right unless you de-iconize it and re-iconize it.
This is something in dire need of iconization.
Yep. Well, that's why we created it.
Why isn't it? Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Okay, so that's an issue for documentation folk.
Yep.
To think to do that. Okay, inverse spectrogram. I mean, it's kind of frivolous making a, sonification of the baboon type thing. What is it even? Let me just go there and how do I, hold on a second. How do I do this share audio with Zoom?
Add share or new share?
Oh, share computer sound. Here we go. Okay, here goes. Here's the baboon. I don't think baboons make that kind of sound.
Well, clearly this one does.
Right. Well, so Sims partitions with, what is this about?
This is all the arguments of spectrogram, if you look at that. This is the assumptions it makes.
So if I make a data spectrogram data. So if I just make something which says, and how's the spectrogram represented here as lists? Is that right?
Yes.
But so if I just want to take, let's think. So let's say I do this. Okay, and I want to treat that as a spectrogram, and I want to say inverse spectrogram of that. Now, what do I do here? I want to play that as audio, or is that crazy?
Pass that to audio. You have to wrap that into the audio object.
That didn't last long. Now, how do I determine that? Is there a sample rate?
Yep, in audio.
So I could say a %2, and then what would I say?
Sample rate.
Arrow, what might I say? Let's say 2048.
Yep.
That was pretty cool, actually. I mean, it's kind of ugly, but that was pretty cool. We should use that as an example.
Okay.
I mean, if we can find one that sounds a bit better, we should.
Okay. I'll play with it.
But something like that. I see, that worked pretty nicely. So in other words, if I have a 2D array, oh, you can guess what I have to do here. I don't think I've ever tried this like this. So you say I have a 2D array like that, and then I just say inverse spectrogram. Okay. Why is this going to take 2 minutes? It's only 400. Oh, it's 400 across, but okay. Good science fiction soundtrack type
I agree.
material.
I was just going to say, it sounds like Ligeti's Atmospheres, which was used in 2001.
I'm thinking the same thing. All right, let's see what happens when we get to the middle here. Oh, I see. At this point, after the middle, it's going to be downhill from here. Okay, but it sounds better than GCDs. I have to try one other thing. That was pretty cool. Sorry, I'm playing here, so to speak. Interesting. Actually, I think it's going to sound better if we do this. I don't like those clicks at the beginning. I have a suspicion what those are, and I think it's wrong. Was pretty cool. Yeah, it seems like almost one of those tweetable thingies. Okay, those clicks at the beginning, I think, are something I don't like very much. See that? It's white noise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it's clicking.
Okay.
I don't think that's right. But this is a much better example than the ones you have here, if I might say so.
Okay.
And I'm going to store that for my possible tweetery. Sorry, just a second here. Oh, whatever. I'll worry about this in a minute. Okay. All right. Well, so with that, I kind of agree. Inverse spectrogram seems ready for prime time.
Okay.
But please use an example like this at the beginning, because I think it's a nice example. Whereas this one, it's like you don't know where that data comes from. You have no idea what the, what kind of a thing it could be.
That's true.
This would be better. I should remember it might be better to have the cellular automaton rule, which is the flip around of this.
Okay.
Gosh, I should remember what that is. My gosh. Losing my mind. Okay. All right. And I'm already late for something else. Yeah, well, I'm not a group. I mean, this whole audio pause, audio, do all that other stuff.
Are those options or are those functions?
Those are functions.
I
mean, so for example, this one, I think if I say audio play of our amazing work of art here, so for example, I could presumably say, by the way, oops, how do I stop this? Help!
Audio pause or audio stop? No GUI be gärna.
By the way, I assume that I can just say audio reverse. Wait a minute, what is it called? How do I reverse this audio?
We don't have a function to do that.
Oh, so I guess I just have to say audio of reverse of %11. Let's go one step up. So it is, after all, self-similar. It shouldn't make that much of a difference.
I like it.
That's pretty good for a
Yep.
for very that's pretty good.
Looks like we are getting into techno music now.
Yeah, right. Actually, I'm really curious now. I'm okay, just one more thing and then we wrap this up, and I apologize for the probably this won't sound like much. Actually, I wanted to reverse that. I need to go to my next meeting. Sorry. Boring. All right, one last thing, and then we really wrap up. This works in 12.0, doesn't it? This stuff.
Yes.
Does it work in the cloud?
Should work.
So if I were to if I were to make make a little thing here and just say audio of that. Oops. What is the
Maybe you want
default sample rate?
reverse.
No, I don't care about the reverse.
44,100.
And is that a good idea for audio inverse spectrogram?
Well, depends where the spectrogram or the data comes from.
Certainly made a lot of sense in the days of Red Book audio.
I mean, it's not so obvious it makes sense for this particular thing here.
Well, inverse spectrogram doesn't have a sample rate option.
Oh, I see. It could. Okay, tell me what's happening here. Up, okay. Let's try it. Hello. Why isn't that playing? It's just stuck. Can you comment on why this isn't playing?
We've been looking into some optimizations on the cloud. I haven't checked with the cloud team to see what has happened with that after the conference.
No, Sandra was asking if I meant rule 90. No, I don't. I mean rule 60 with a flipped around so that it's so that it goes to the right instead of the left. Okay, well this didn't work, so I'm going to send this out as a problem here.
Okay.
Okay, well we de-experimentalized one function. Better than zero.
Do we have a place in our community for this type of odd experiments?
Are you asking, do we have a place in the community website and things?
Yes.
Saying, do we? Are you stating that we do, or are you asking if we do?
No, I'm asking if we have.
No, I don't think
there.
we do, but we should have, because there's obviously a lot of fun things one can do.
Super fun.
Yeah, this was good. I think I'm going to tweet this one if I get around to it. Okay, great. Okay, for people who are following our live streams, we are doing a big live stream about biomolecules in a little less than 2 hours. Otherwise, I'll talk to you all soon. See you later.